Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah. Thank you so much for inviting me to join in celebrating Lois's birthday. I found you guys on Zoom, and I feel such a kinship to my South African new family. So thank you, everybody. Um, yes, so I'm going to read Lois's words from How Al-Anon Works, just a short excerpt here in regards to this topic of not standing still. And it reads, there is a striking analogy between working on ourselves and cultivating a garden. Our garden tools are these principles of AA and Al-Anon: knowledge of ourselves and our motives, honesty in facing ourselves as we really are, a desire to help others, and the awareness of God. We must keep cultivating with these really effective implements, lest our garden be overrun with weeds. One gardener may find it difficult to uproot the weeds because his tools are constantly being dulled against many large rocks. But by repeated sharpening of his hoe and by careful selection of his plants, at last he may be able to grow a very charming rock garden. Yet another, because he is too sure of the fertility of his plot and takes it for granted that he will have a beautiful garden because his soil is rich, does not bother to cultivate. This gardener may one day wake up to find his garden filled with insidious weeds, the weeds of smugness and self-righteousness that thrive in fertile ground. In just this way, the garden of many, a martyred, self-pitying wife or husband of an alcoholic, can become choked and unproductive. The Al-Anon family groups point out the need to cultivate the gardens of our lives and show us how this can be done through the use of AA's 12 steps. And so I grew up in an alcoholic home, and I have not lived in my childhood home for over 30 years. And just like Lois, who needed healing, needed recovering after Bill stopped drinking, I still need that same healing and recovery, even though I don't live there in my home. And I thought that would be the solution. I thought once I leave home, everything will be great. And I went out into adulthood with self-destruction, insanity, and depression. And after a lot of painful experiences, I did actually find my way to Al-Anon. And I went to Al-Anon for the first 2 years, only going to meetings and only venting about my problems. There was a lot of anger, a lot of rage, and a lot of pain. And I thought, I have an audience that I can share this with. And you know what? They can't even crosstalk. So, haha, and what a gift that they let me do that and just said, keep coming back, and I didn't care about the steps. I didn't care about the traditions. I didn't care about sponsorship or service. I just wanted to go to the meetings and vent. And I guess in a way, it just kind of trimmed a little bit of the weeds in my garden. And then I'd go back the next week and just trim a little bit of the weeds of the garden. And I got some pain relief out of that. And then, of course, I met a guy, the higher power du jour. And I said, I don't need Al-Anon. I'm gonna, I don't need this anymore. I'm gonna be living happily ever after with my new higher power / Prince Charming, who is going to love me until I love myself, you know. He was my savior. So I left the program the first time, and it just went downhill so fast, crashed and burned after a year. And then I was, there were so many weeds. I came crawling back with the gift of desperation, as we hear, and came into the program completely ready, powerless. I will do what you suggest. I will get a sponsor. I will work the steps. I will do service. And I was willing to do that because I was so broken, and I thought, this is the only way. Either I'm going to commit suicide, or I need to dedicate myself to this program. So it really was a matter of life and death for me. So, and I stay in the program, and I plan to never leave because my garden can still grow weeds. And I have a disease of distorted thinking. I have alcoholism going on in my brain. Even though I don't drink, I can become just as insane, chaotic. My life can become unmanageable. And so I rely on this program as my daily medicine for the disease that I have, because I was affected by the disease of alcoholism. So I battle with a lot of weeds, but I battle with three big weeds, or they could be beanstalks sometimes. And one of those weeds is, I know it all. I know it all. And that's the weed that says, oh, you don't need to go to any meetings anymore. You got this program. You know, you don't need to call your sponsor. You can graduate from this program. And that weed needs to be cultivated or removed. And I need to ask God to humbly ask God to remove those shortcomings. I need God to help me with my garden, because I've tried doing the garden myself and it doesn't work. I spent my life believing that Hannah could restore Hannah to sanity. I turned my will and my life over to Hannah. I thought Hannah could remove her own shortcomings. And all that led to a lot of insanity and pain and chaos, which brings me to the program, because I can't do it myself. I can't be in charge of my life. I need a higher power of my own understanding. I also think about this topic of not standing still as akin to exercising and physical fitness. You know, it's like I used to be a very physical person. My career was in a physical realm. I was a performing artist. I was dancing all day and all night, and I took it for granted. You know, I was just used to that physicality, and I don't do that anymore. I've retired from that years ago, and I find that I still need to find ways to keep up my physical fitness so I can remain healthy. I can't rely on those days and nights years ago to keep me healthy today. And it's just like with spiritual fitness. I need to work out my spiritual muscles. I need to do service. I need to come and listen to you guys. I need to work with my sponsor and pray and meditate. And I need to keep conditioning and strengthening my spiritual muscles so I have good spiritual fitness. And that is one day at a time. That is practicing this program one day at a time. And just like the garden, even though I attended a garden years ago and maybe won an award for best garden, if I don't keep it up, it's just going to be neglected and turn back to weeds. I talked about my 3 big weeds. The other one, this is a weed that pops up a lot, and it's if you or he or she or they don't do what I want you to do, then I'm not okay. That somehow my will, my life, my self-esteem, my self-worth depends on what you, he, she, they do. And this program talks about that I can have serenity within myself. It's God that restores me to sanity. It's not whether you behave the way I want you to. That's not real sanity. That's just my buttons aren't being pushed at the moment. And okay, I'm not triggered at the moment. That's not the same as real sanity that step 2 talks about. So, and that takes practice. I need to keep working on that as well. So I don't get lost in the ego or my disease of distorted thinking. The third big weed that pops up a lot in my garden is I'm not blank enough. Fill in the blank. I'm not good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, fast enough, tall enough, thin enough, whatever it is. That's a weed that is a stubborn one. Those are my 3 big stubborn weeds that I have to work on on a daily basis. Otherwise, they ruin my garden. Thank you. And I'd like to talk about the words of encouragement. It starts off, if we willingly surrender ourselves to the spiritual discipline of the 12 steps, our lives will be transformed. And it lists all the gifts that we can receive from this program. It's from this book, one of our books, From Survival to Recovery. It's in my edition, it's on page 269. If I'm allowed to, when the chat opens up, I can post the list for those who may not have the book. But it tells me what I can have by working this program. And it's a lot more than just pain relief. It talks about serenity, being mature, responsible individuals, that fear can be replaced by faith. And that's what I want. I don't want a mediocre life. I don't want to go back to the way I was living, that's for sure. But I want the gifts that the program says I can have. So I'll just end with, the steps help me develop a relationship with my higher power and myself. The traditions help me play nice in the sandbox with you guys. And the concepts help me relate to my community or the world in a more global sense. And so I want to stay in humility. I want to stay willing and teachable so I can keep growing in this program, and I'm not standing still. If my garden stands still, it's not going to stay that way forever. Weeds will grow if I don't take care of my garden. So I appreciate you guys listening to me today. I feel so grateful to be here and a part of this wonderful celebration of Lois's birthday. Thank you, everybody.